Now we shall discuss about measurement of energy. Measurement of energy. Energy is the energy is the total power consumed by the load over a period of time t. Energy is the total power consumed by the load over a period of time t. It is expressed as E is equal to integration from 0 to t p of t dt, which is equal to integration from 0 to t v of t I of t dt. It is integration of power with respect to time. Energy is the integration of power with respect to time. Okay, it is the total power consumed by the load. Total power consumed by the load over a period of time t, or over an interval of time t, and it is expressed as E is equal to integration from 0 to t v of t I of t dt. V of t is expressed in volts, I of t is expressed in amps. Unit of voltage is volts, unit of current is amps. Coming to the unit of energy is joule, joule or watt second, joule or watt second. The commercial unit of energy is the commercial the commercial unit of energy the commercial unit of energy is kilowatt hour, kWh. The commercial unit of energy is kilowatt hour. An instrument an instrument that is used that is used for the for the measurement of measurement of energy is called energy meter. Energy meter or watt hour meter. Energy meter or watt hour meter. The instrument which is used for the measurement of energy is called energy meter. The instrument which is used for the measurement of energy over a period of time is called energy meter or watt hour meter. Energy meter works based on electromagnetic induction principle. It works it works based on electromagnetic 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 induction principle. It works based on electromagnetic induction principle. That's why energy meter is called as induction type instrument. Energy meter is called as induction type instrument, induction type, induction type instrument, because it works based on electromagnetic induction principle. Coming to the construction details of induction type instrument, induction type energy meter. Okay. Coming to the construction of an induction type energy meter. It consists of the following components: driving system, moving system, moving system, braking system, and registering system. Registering system or recording system. Registering or recording system. Recording system. What are the components present in energy meter? Driving system, driving system, moving system, braking system, and recording system. Coming to the driving system, it essentially consisting of two magnets called shunt magnet and series magnet. This is shunt magnet. You're going to have series magnet. This is series magnet. A coil having large number of turns. A coil having large number of turns is placed upon this central limb of this shunt magnet. Central limb of this shunt magnet. This is a coil which is having large number of turns. Here you are going to have load. Here we apply phase neutral. Here we apply single phase AC supply. We provide single phase AC supply. Okay, now a coil having large number of turns wound upon this central limb of this shunt magnet. Okay, and this coil is connected across the applied voltage. This coil is connected across the applied voltage. This coil is called as pressure coil or voltage coil. As it is connected across this applied voltage, it is called as voltage coil or pressure coil. This carries current which is proportional to the applied voltage. Okay, now this is what? This is shunt electromagnet. Shunt magnet. Shunt electromagnet. Now place winding upon this series magnet. This is series magnet. The coil which is placed upon this series magnet is called current coil. This is called current coil. Anyhow, this is load. A coil having large number of turns is wound upon this central limb of this shunt magnet, and this coil is arranged to be as highly inductive as possible. This should be as inductive as possible to get the phase displacement between voltage and current 90 degrees. If this is voltage V, then this will be ISH. Okay, current lags voltage by an angle 90 degrees. The angle between voltage and current should be 90 degrees. Okay, anyhow, the current which is flowing to this is ISH. The voltage which is applied across this is V. Okay, if it is highly inductive in nature, if this coil is highly inductive in nature, then the angle between voltage and current will be approximately 90 degrees. In order to make the phase displacement of 90 degrees between voltage and current, this coil is arranged to be as inductive as possible. I will come back to the advantage of having phase displacement of 90 degrees between voltage and current a little later. I'll discuss about this a little later point of time. Okay, so anyhow, this coil should be as inductive as possible. This coil is called voltage coil or pressure coil. This coil is called current coil. The coil which is connected in series with the load is called current coil. Okay, this is called series magnet, series electromagnet or series magnet. Okay, this carries current which is flowing to the load. Let IL is the current which is flowing to the load. Okay, this carries current which is flowing to the load. This is placed in series with the load and carries the current which is flowing to the load. Okay, and the flux which is produced by this series magnet is proportional to the current flowing to the load. The flux which is produced by this shunt magnet is proportional to the ISH, which is proportional to the applied voltage. For lag adjustment, sometimes we may not get a phase displacement of 90 degrees. Okay, so for lag adjustment, in order to get the phase displacement of 90 degrees between voltage and current, applied voltage and the current which is flowing to the pressure coil, we place copper shading bands. We place copper shading bands. Here we are going to have copper shading bands. Okay, this is copper shading band for lag adjustment. This is for lag adjustment, copper shading band. By changing the position of this copper shading band, we can have this lag adjustment. Okay, we can get the phase displacement of 90 degrees between voltage and current. Okay, this is called power factor compensator or compensating loop. This copper band which is used for lag adjustment is called power factor compensator. Okay, copper band, copper shading band, shading band is called power factor compensator, power factor compensator or compensating loop or compensating compensating loop, compensating loop. Okay, now coming to the moving system. Moving system consisting of spindle. Okay, you're going to have spindle like this. sorry, you're going to have spindle which is supported on jeweled bearings. Spindle or shaft. This is also called as shaft. This is moving element. Okay, it is the system is consisting of moving system is consisting of shaft, disc, rotating disc, gear train, and clock mechanism. Okay, so here you're going to have disc, a light rotating disc. Okay, disc which is placed between two magnets. Okay, disc which is placed between two magnets. Okay, the flux which is given by this shunt magnet is called phi SH. The flux which is produced by this series magnet is called phi SC. Okay, a light aluminum disc is attached to the spindle. Okay, then you're going to have recording system. Here you're going to have recording system. Recording mechanism. Recording mechanism. Sorry. Recording mechanism. Actually, you're going to have a shaft. Okay, this is a shaft which is supported on jeweled bearings. Okay, aluminum disc is attached to the spindle, shaft or spindle. Okay, here you're going to have pinion gear. Okay, you're going to have pinion gear. Okay, you're going to have gear like this. This is called pinion gear. Okay, you're going to have pinion gear. Okay, this is connected to gear train. Okay, you're going to have reduction of gears like this. Okay, your gear train. Reduction of gears. This is called gear train. Okay, you're going to have gear train. Okay, this gear train is driven by this worm or pinion gear. This is pinion gear. Okay, this gear train is connected to clock mechanism. This is connected to the clock mechanism to indicate the energy consumption. Okay, so coming to the moving system, this consists of a light aluminum disc which is attached to the spindle The spindle is supported on jeweled bearings, and pinion gear or worm or pinion gear which is connected to the spindle, and this drives reduction of gears or gear train. Okay, you're going to have gear train. Okay, this is driven by this pinion gear, and this gear train is connected to the clock mechanism to indicate the energy consumption, to indicate the energy consumption. Okay, now this 5sh, anyhow this disk is placed between these two magnets. Okay, because of this 5sh, let IE1 is the eddy current which is produced in this disk. Okay, let IE1 is the eddy current which is produced in this disk. Because of this 5sc, IE2 will be the eddy current which is circulating in the disk. Okay, now because of the interaction between 5sh and IE2, you're going to have one driving torque, that is TD1. Because of the interaction of 5sc and IE1, you're going to have one more driving torque. Because of these two driving torques, you're going to have resultant driving torque, that is TD. So TD is equal to TD1 difference of TD1 and TD2. Okay, so the interaction of this flux and eddy current produced by this flux will provide one torque. You're going to have one more torque which is produced due to the interaction of 5sc and IE1. Okay, we are going to have two torques. Okay, difference of these two torques will give resulting torque, that is TD. So disk will be rotating because of that driving torque set up by the two fluxes 5sh and 5sc. Disk will be rotating. Therefore, it indicates power consumed by the load. Okay, so number of revolutions made by the disk will be directly proportional to the energy consumed by the load. Coming to braking system, in order to control the speed of the disk, we place one permanent magnet, that is damping of this disk. Damping of this aluminum disk is provided by a small permanent magnet which is located diametrically opposite to these two electromagnets. Okay, so you're going to have a permanent magnet. Sorry. Okay, this is permanent magnet. Okay, this is used to get braking torque. Okay, damping of the system is provided by a small magnet which that is located diametrically opposite to these two AC magnets, these two electromagnets. Okay, this is used to control the speed of this disk. Okay, so anyhow this is permanent magnet. Okay, let phi b is the flux. Okay, let phi b is the flux which is produced by this permanent magnet. Okay, anyhow this is permanent magnet which produces constant flux that is phi b. Okay, so because of the flux produced by this permanent magnet, again eddy currents will be produced in this disk. Okay, again eddy currents will be produced in this disk because of this phi b produced by this permanent magnet. Okay, phi b. Okay, now due to the interaction of these two fluxes, that is flux produced by this eddy current and flux produced by this permanent magnet, this disk experiences torque called braking torque. Okay, so the speed of the disk can be controlled because of this permanent magnet. Okay, anyhow let phi b is the flux which is produced by this permanent magnet. Because of this phi b, I is the eddy current which is induced in this disk. Due to this eddy current, flux will be produced. Due to the interaction of these two fluxes, this disk experiences torque, that is driving torque. Okay, so the speed of the disk can be get controlled. Speed of the disk will get controlled because of this permanent magnet. Okay, you can change the speed of the disk by changing the position of this permanent magnet. Okay, if it is placed away from the center of this disk, the speed will be different. If we place near to the center of this disk, the speed will be different. Okay, by changing the position of this permanent magnet, you can control the speed of the disk. Okay, this is all about braking system. Coming to the recording system or registering system, it essentially consisting of gear train. Okay, this is gear train which is driven by worm or pinion gear, and this worm or pinion gear which is attached to the shaft or spindle. This gear train turns the this gear train turns pointers that indicate on dials the number of times that this has turned. Okay, this gear train will turn pointers that indicate on dials the number of times the disk has turned. So the energy meter integrates all the instantaneous power values over a period of time t, gives energy consumed by the load. That's why the energy meter is also called as integrating meter, as it integrates all instantaneous power values over a period of time t. That's why energy meter is also called as integrating meter. Anyhow, this gate train is connected to clock mechanism. Okay, so this gate train will turn pointers that indicate on dials. Okay. Anyhow, here we place short circuited loop. Here we place short circuited loop for light load adjustment. Okay, this is copper band for lag adjustment. Here we place short circuited loop, short circuited loop for light load adjustment. Between this shunt magnet and disc we place short circuited loop for light load adjustment. Okay, I'll come back to this point later point of time. Now coming to the operation of energy meter, operation of induction type energy meter, operation. This is the disc, aluminum disc. Let phi of t is the flux which is acting upon the plane of this aluminum disc. Okay, let phi of t is the flux which is acting upon this disc. Okay, then according to Lenz's law, this will be the direction of eddy current. What is Lenz's law? Induced EMF opposes the change in flux causing it. So according to Lenz's law, this will be the direction of eddy current in the aluminum disc. Okay, now it's time to investigate whether there is any torque produced because of the interaction of flux and its own eddy current. Okay, phi of t is the flux which is acting upon this disc. Let I is the eddy current produced in this disc because of this phi of t. Okay, this eddy current is because of phi of t. As it is alternating in nature, eddy current will be produced in this disc. Okay, according to Lenz's law, this will be the direction of eddy current. Okay, now let me investigate whether there is any torque produced because of the interaction of this flux and its own eddy current. Okay, so you know driving torque which is equal to phi of t ie cos of angle between phi of t and ie. Okay. If this is the flux, phasor flux, then eddy EMF, that is induced EMF, lags flux by an angle 90 degrees. Okay, according to Lenz's law, induced EMF opposes the change in flux causing it. Okay, so this induced EMF lags flux by an angle 90 degrees. Okay, coming to the eddy current in the disc, how can I have the phasor eddy current IE? Okay, this will be okay, this will be IE. The angle between these two will be alpha. Alpha will be very small, nearly equal to 0. These two will be in phase because aluminum disc will be restive in nature. 99% it is restive in nature. Okay, this is resistive in nature. As this aluminum disc is resistive in nature, angle between eddy current and eddy EMF will be nearly equal to 0. Let alpha is the angle between these two, and that angle will be nearly equal to 0. These two will be in phase because aluminum disc is approximately resistive in nature. It is resistive in nature. Okay. Now, what is the angle between these two? Phi of t and IE. Phi of t and IE, cos of angle between these two. What is the angle between these two? 90 plus alpha. Then which is equal to phi of t IE sin alpha. Okay, since it is resistive in nature, alpha will be nearly equal to approximately equal to 0, then driving torque will be equal to 0. Okay, coming to the conclusion. No torque will be produced, no torque will be produced due to the interaction of flux and its own eddy current. Okay, no torque will be produced because of the interaction of flux and its own eddy current. That's why no torque will be produced due to the interaction of phi sh and IE1. No torque will be produced due to the interaction of phi sc and IE2. Okay, let phi sh is the flux which is produced by this shunt magnet. Okay, so this magnet will produce phi sh. Okay, this is phi sh. This magnet will produce, sorry, this magnet will produce phi sc. Okay, let this is phi 1. Okay, phi 1, let this is phi 2. Okay, so due to the interaction of phi sh and IE1, IE1 is the eddy current because of phi sh, IE2 is the eddy current because of phi se. So no torque will be produced due to the interaction of these two. No torque will be produced due to the interaction of these two. The torque will be produced due to the interaction of phi sh and IE2, and one more torque will be produced due to the interaction of phi se and IE1. Okay, TD1 will be produced due to the interaction of phi sh and IE2. TD2 will be produced due to the interaction of phi sc and IE1. IE1 is the current which is produced. This is the current due to phi sh, produced due to phi sh. Okay, so we have two torques. Okay, phi sh interacting of phi sh and IE2. This IE2 is generated by phi sc, produced by phi sc. Okay, this IE1 is produced by phi sh. Okay, so you're going to have resulting torque is the difference of these two torques. Okay, what will be TD1? TD1 is equal to phi 1 IE2 cos of angle between phi 1 and IE2. What is TD2? Which is equal to phi 2 IE1 cos of angle between phi 2 and IE1. Then we can have the resulting torque, which is the difference of these two torques. Okay, let beta is the angle between phi 1 and phi 2. Okay, here phi 1 is nothing but phi sh, phi 2 is nothing but phi se. Okay, so now disk, this is phi 1 which is equal to phi m1 sin omega t. Okay, this is phi 2. Phi 2 is equal to phi m2 sin of omega t minus beta. Okay, now let me draw the phasor diagram to know the angle between these two as well as the angle between these two. Okay, here phi 2 lags phi 1 bar angle beta. Okay, first let me draw phi 2. This is phi 2. Phi 1 leads phi 2 by an angle beta. Okay, then you're going to have phi 2 like phi 1 like this. This will be phi 1. The angle between these two will be beta. Okay, beta, right? Now coming to induced EMF due to phi 1. Okay, according to Lenz's law, induced EMF opposes the change in flux causing it. So induced EMF lags flux by an angle 90 degrees. So ED1 lags phi 1. Okay, ED1 lags phi 1 by an angle 90 degrees. So this will be ED1. The angle between phi 1 and ED1 will be 90 degrees. Okay, angle between these two will be 90 degrees. Now coming to ED2, you're going to have ED2 like this. ED2 lags phi 2 by an angle 90 degrees. So this will be ED2. Okay, the angle between these two will be 90 degrees. The angle between these two will be 90 degrees. Okay, now let me draw ID1. ID1, this will be ID1. ID1, okay, or IE1 is ID1. ID1 lags ED1 by an angle alpha. This angle will be very small. Okay, this angle is alpha. This angle is alpha because it is the disk is restive in nature. Almost they are in phase. They will be in phase because alpha will be very small. Okay, now we can draw ID2. Sorry, you can draw ID2 like this. This will be ID2. ID2. Again, the angle between these two will be alpha. Okay, right. Now, this will be equal to phi 1 IE2 cos of angle between phi 1 and IE2. Phi 1 and or ID2 or IE2, both are same. Okay, ID2 or IE2. Okay, the angle between these two will be, anyhow, angle from here to here is 90 degrees. Okay, 90 plus alpha. If beta is the angle between phi 1 and phi 2, then beta will be the angle between ID1, sorry, ED1 and ED2. Okay, the angle between these two will be beta only. The angle between these two will be beta only, ED1 and ED2, because the angle between phi 1 and phi 2 will be beta, is beta. That's why the angle between ED1 and ED2 will be beta only. Okay, now phi 1 IE2, what is the angle between these two? Phi 1 and IE2. Phi 1, phi 1 and IE2. Okay, 90 degrees. Okay, otherwise, here see, sorry, angle from here to here, angle from here to here is 90 degrees. Okay, 90 degrees, 90 degrees plus alpha plus beta. Okay, so this angle is beta, angle from here to here is 90 plus this angle, so you're going to get 90 plus alpha plus beta. Coming to this, phi 2 IE1 cos of angle between these two. Okay, phi 2 and IE1. Okay, we have phi 2, phi 2, where is IE1? This one is IE1. The angle between these two, will be 90 minus beta plus alpha. Okay, angle from here to here is 90. Okay, 90 minus beta, 90 minus beta, then you are going to get this angle. Okay, from here to here. Okay, sorry, from here to here, this angle plus alpha gives the angle between these two. Okay, so T D1 is equal to phi 1 IE2, phi 1 IE2 cos of 90 plus alpha plus beta. T D2 is equal to phi 2 IE1 cos of 90 minus beta plus alpha. Okay, 90 plus alpha minus beta. Okay, TD is equal to TD1 difference TD2. Then you are going to get phi 1 IE2 cos of 90 plus alpha plus beta difference phi 2 IE1 cos of 90 plus alpha minus beta. Okay, difference of cos of a plus b and cos of a minus b. Okay, you take difference. Okay, what is cos of a minus b minus cos of a plus b? It is 2 sin a sin b. Okay, so you can have like this. Okay, now we'll do one thing. Anyhow, this is phi 1. Okay, IE1 is due to phi 1 only. Okay, so I'll do one thing which is proportional to otherwise you can also write like this, which is equal to, you do one thing which is equal to uh, proportional to, anyhow this is phi 1. Okay, this is phi 2. So let me write like this: phi 1 phi 2, phi 1 phi 2 into cos of 90 plus alpha plus beta difference cos of 90 plus alpha minus beta. So which is directly proportional to, TD is directly proportional to VI. Okay, phi 1 is phi SH, phi 2 is phi SE. Okay, this is due to ISH, this is due to IL or ISC. Okay, so phi SE is directly proportional to IL. Okay, so this phi SE is, or phi 2 is directly proportional to IL. So let me write IL in place of phi 2. Okay, this is proportional to applied voltage. Okay, this current is proportional to applied voltage because that is connected across the applied voltage, and this flux is directly proportional to phi sh. So in place of phi 1, let me write V, applied voltage. So V into IL, the difference between these two will be 2 sin A sin B. So sin of 90 plus alpha sin beta. Okay, therefore it implies TD directly proportional to VIL, or simply you can have VI. VI, what is sin of 90 plus alpha? Cos alpha. Cos alpha sin beta. Anyhow, alpha will be very small value. If it is almost equal to 0, cos 0 will be equal to 1. Then TD will be directly proportional to VI sin beta. VI sin beta. Okay, so we know TD is directly proportional to VI sin beta. When driving torque will be proportional to true power, true AC power, if this is 90 minus 5. Okay, if beta is equal to 90 minus 5, then TD will be directly proportional to VI cos phi, that is sin of 90 minus 5. Okay, so beta should be 90 minus 5. Okay, let me draw the phasor diagram to know the angle between phi sh and phi sc, that is beta. Beta is the angle between phi sh and phi sc. Okay, this is the angle between phi sh and phi se. Okay, so now let me draw the phasor diagram. Let this is the voltage across the load or applied voltage. This is VL or V phase, VL or V phase. Let IL lags voltage by an angle phi. As we use lagging loads, okay, this will be IL. Okay, Now we know phi SC will be in phase with IL, because phi SC is directly proportional to IL. Because of this IL only phi SC will be produced. Okay, we know the angle between, sorry, yeah, the angle between phi SC, phi SC and phi SH, phi SC, phi SH and phi SC, this will be phi SH. The angle between these two will be beta. Okay, beta is the angle between these two, right? Okay, this will be phi SH, sorry, ISH, because phi SH is directly proportional to ISH. Okay, these two will be in phase. Okay, now if pressure coil or voltage coil is purely inductive in nature, inductive in nature, purely inductive in nature. Okay, if it is, if pressure coil is purely inductive in nature, then VL leads, or V phase leads ISH by an angle 90 degrees, by an angle 90 degrees. Okay, so the angle between these two will be 90 degrees, V phase and ISH. Okay, that's why we should have the phase angle between these two will be 90 degrees. We should have phase angle of 90 degrees between these two quantities. Okay, that's why this voltage coil is arranged to be as highly inductive as possible. If it is highly inductive, if it is as inductive as possible, then ISH lags voltage by an angle 90 degrees. If it is the case like this, then beta will be equal to 90 minus 5. Okay, I'll check now what is that, what is this angle, what is this beta. Okay, anyhow, IL lags voltage by an angle phi. Anyhow, IL lags, load current lags load voltage by an angle phi, right? Then what will be this beta? Then here beta will be equal to 90 minus 5. Okay, when this angle is equal to 90 minus 5, if voltage coil or pressure coil is purely inductive in nature. Okay, in case of wattmeter, pressure coil of wattmeter should be as resistive as possible. Okay, in case of energy meter, pressure coil of energy meter should be as highly inductive as possible, as inductive as possible. It is somewhat difficult to make purely inductive in nature. It is difficult to have a pressure coil purely inductive in nature. So at least you make this pressure coil as inductive as possible to get the phase displacement of 90 degrees between VL and ISH, or V phase and ISH. Okay, so now PD is directly proportional to VI cos phi. Okay, coming to braking torque. Braking torque. This is used to control the speed of the disc. Okay, so you know, right, you have disc. Okay, this is located, this, sorry, this is permanent magnet, which is located diametrically opposite to the series and shunt magnet, two AC magnets. Okay, phi b is the flux which is produced by this braking magnet. Anyhow, this flux is constant. Okay, this is aluminum disc. Okay, this breaking torque is directly proportional to phi b ib. Okay, and this is directly proportional to phi b. Ib is nothing but eb by r. Okay, eddy current. I is the eddy current. Okay, eb is the eddy emf. Okay, as it is resistive in nature, ib ib nothing but ie here. Okay, you do one thing, let me write ib. Okay, ib is equal to eb by r because it is resistive in nature. So r is resistance, sorry, resistance path of resistance path of eddy current, eddy current, resistance path of eddy current, which is directly proportional to phi b. Eb is directly proportional to n into phi b. Okay, by r. Okay, so a braking torque is directly proportional to phi b square into n. Anyhow, this phi b is constant because here we use permanent magnet. So braking torque will be directly proportional to the speed of the disc. Speed of the disc. Okay, so driving torque is proportional to Vi cos phi, that is AC power, and braking torque is directly proportional to the speed of the disc, right? Okay, uh, you're going to have the disc like this. If this is the driving torque, okay, then this will be the braking torque. This is opposite to the direction of this, sorry, driving torque. Okay, if this is the direction of TD, then this will be the direction of TB. Okay, the direction of this braking torque will be opposite to the direction of driving torque. Okay, a disc, this aluminum disc rotates with constant speed when TD, sorry, when TB is equal to TD. Okay, braking torque is equal to, if braking torque is equal to driving torque, then this disc rotates with constant speed. Okay, that is the steady state of this disc. Okay, at steady state both will be equal. Okay, then speed will be directly proportional to Va cos phi. Speed of the disc is directly proportional to Va cos phi. Okay, speed of the disk is directly proportional to power consumed by the load. Okay, let me integrate the speed with respect to time. Again, let me integrate this power with respect to time. Okay, then this integration of n dt is nothing but number of revolutions, number of revolutions, number of revolutions made by the disk, directly proportional to integration of power with respect to time is nothing but energy consumed, energy consumed by the load. So number of revolutions made by the disk is directly proportional to energy consumed by the load. So this energy meter measures energy. Okay, in the next class we'll discuss about errors present in the energy meter. Okay, thank you.